Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining. Let us know what stocks you're watching. Thank you, Hunter, Justin, and B for joining, and good morning to everyone. We have Bitcoin popping up this morning. It's up around 42.5 thousand right now. It had a crazy recovery from yesterday's low of around $30,000, so that's just crazy. Good morning, Raphael. He said, good morning. Finally, the test flight day for SPCE. So, Tom, we got to talk about SPCE. It was exploding in pre-market this morning, and they also have a relatively high short float, so this might even be a little bit of a short squeeze.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if that happened. And I honestly really like SPCE off the support. Not that I like the stock overall, but man, it was really moving well off of this support down here around $15. Hit it, and now we're just capping up today. Market just opened, and we can see SPCE was up very significantly in pre-market. Looks like it's coming down as of right now, but I will say just an interesting play overall, especially with SPCE being the type of company that it is, and also that the CEO was selling shares along with ARKK was even cutting some of their positions. So it's just one of those crazy companies where there's always a lot of volatility, but definitely watch it today because whenever it gets that hype and it runs, it really likes to keep going. And we can see at market open right now, huge green candle on the 1 minute chart as it just keeps flying back up towards those pre-market highs.
Definitely. And then we have Jorge saying good morning. Welcome, Bill, Jorge, T. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have T saying AT&T, we taking over what you got now. Let's check out AT&T, Tom. I know it had an extremely volatile week. It was really gapping up and running this morning on, this week on Monday, and then it completely reversed on just Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So let's see what's going on. It's actually popping up a little bit right now, but it's not looking like too bullish.
AT&T, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like at market open, there's very slight red candles on the 1 minute, like just a few cents down, so not really any movement at all. Just like very flat, I would say this morning looked like it gapped up very slightly in pre-market. Now it's just kind of sitting there. So don't know what to think about T. Very crazy movement, how they were up so high and then just tanked off, even though they had pretty good news. And sometimes we see that happen lately, but man, it's just whenever you have a value stock like this and it tanks that much so quickly, it's just like what was the catalyst? But the catalyst was just that they were having a merger deal. So you would kind of expect it to go up and not maybe drop this much. And you can really see the volatility here and how big the gaps were.
Yeah, and then also don't forget that they announced news of cutting their dividend, which also,
Oh
made a
yeah,
lot.
that was huge. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. And then if we look at QQQ intraday, it had an amazing rally for like the past hour or so, and it's still going. Like, look at this 5 minute chart. It bounced off a great support right around, you could say 321, and it's still going. Looks like we're set to have a pretty good day.
Yeah, it looks really good. The QQQ in tech is just flying up. Really like the way it looks. We can go look at like Apple. It even is starting to come up, was up a lot in pre-market. Microsoft, I'm sure, is the same way, popping up at open. Let's even go check out like Tesla, NIO. Yeah, even they're like starting to go green today. So overall, just great recovery out of the market. We really saw a couple of really bad days, especially like with the SPY falling on like Yellen's comments and just stuff like that. And now it's starting to come right back up, which is just awesome. I really like the recovery, and we could have seen some good opportunities if stocks kept falling. But I will say though, with the SPY kind of moving back above 410, 411 today, it really has me being kind of more bullish on it. I don't see it falling below 411 or 410 today, breaking any supports. So honestly, I would just look for it to be flat or just be slightly bullish. And if it does keep going up, I see a pretty good resistance here around 413. So just watch out for that.
Check out JD. This one's actually popping up a lot this morning. It looks like an earnings continuation play, so this might have some potential for a day trade at some point throughout the day. I'm a little, I wouldn't get in it right now because I just feel like it's going too vertical, but overall, I just have my eyes on it because even on the daily, it looks pretty decent for a pop back up.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, JD's just one of those companies that whenever it likes to pop, it does pop. And I like how they're moving off of this catalyst with earnings, and they have a solid double bottom on the daily. So honestly, pretty good opportunity here. And we're seeing tons of stocks post these kinds of opportunities down at support. And I just think that it's just a great opportunity for the overall market, especially like with dip buys and everything. We even saw Kathy Wood buying up some dips. And I just have a good feeling that some of these stocks like JD and others are going to recover that are down, maybe 30 to 40% from their highs over the past few months.
For sure. And we're just eyeing it. It's just a potential day trade at some point throughout the day. But we have Rock saying, what is your analysis on BNTX? So let's check it out. BNTX. They're doing pretty well. They're up a little bit today, but man, they've just been exploding over the past couple months. They look great. In the past year, they went from 46 all the way up to 200, and it looks like they're struggling a little bit right around this $200 level. Let me look at the max weekly real quick. Yeah, I mean, it looks good overall. I'm a little worried of a potential pullback because they've just been exploding, but their chart looks awesome.
Yeah, the chart does look great. They just broke that all-time high, I think, right now, hitting 201.31. So hopefully they can keep running right now. I think it would have been a pretty good day trade. You can see it really starting to pop now that it's breaking up. So hopefully it can keep going and pose a good day trading opportunity here. And the daily just looked pretty strong. I mean, it is up a lot year over year, but the setup looks very strong. Like it's really trying to break out here. I think if it can really pop above like 203 pretty well, I think it'll be a good sign for today, but we are still one whole point away, and it is moving very, very volatile right now, to say the least, I will say.
All right. And then we have B saying, how do you guys feel about Cisco to the downside for the short term? So I like it, but only if it breaks below this $50 support. That $50 support is huge for Cisco. It has tried to break below that many times in the past, and it even tried to break it the past day or so, but it could not hold above, it could not hold below that level. So I like this play to the downside only if it breaks below that 50 support. So yeah, keep in mind this is a value stock, and it doesn't really have some crazy movement like a Tesla or Palantir or Enphase would. So just keep that in mind. The IV is only 25%.
Yeah, and I will say I do like the recovery back up on it this morning. That was a pretty bad drop on those terrible earnings. Or maybe if they weren't even, let's go check out the EPS. They might not have been terrible. They actually beat on EPS, but I'm sure they had a bad outlook or something sending them down. But I will say though, I really like the recovery back up today. So hopefully it can keep going. And we see this a lot with earnings where it'll pick a direction, like for example, Cisco to the downside, and then at market open, it'll recover. Or if we see one go up, then at market open, it'll drop. So I'm not really surprised to see this going on either.
All right, and then we have Corbin saying, good morning, guys. It looks like he has the Mara 24 strike call option for August 20th. So, in my opinion, it looks pretty good. The way Mara has been moving, it's been bouncing off that $20 support, and it's getting towards the top of its range. And Mara is one of those stocks where, when it runs, it really runs. Their implied volatility is 166%. So, overall, I like the setup. Be careful of resistance at $25. Tom, do you have any levels on this one? Because I think he's getting it at a pretty decent time.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just, to me, the main thing is Bitcoin, but I will say that there's a pretty decent resistance coming up around $26 on Mara. You could say 25 or 26, somewhere around there. So watch out. We're about a point and a half away from there. And if Bitcoin keeps running up today, I would not be surprised to see Mara and Riot keep going up. They're already up 9%, but we know that these stocks can really move. And on the way down, you can see they fell from 31 all the way down to 22, just within after hours. So overall, the stock is very volatile and moves a lot, especially with Bitcoin. And if we go check out Bitcoin's chart really quick, let's go see BTC USD. It is starting to come down a little bit. Looks like we hit resistance at 43,000 with a pretty distinct candle there. And now we're coming down actually pretty significantly. So hopefully Bitcoin can kind of hold its ground and start to go back up and then push Riot and Mara up with it.
All right. So then we have Matthew saying, NASDAQ analysis, please. So the QQQ is bouncing up a lot right now. And on the daily, it looks great, especially for a recovery back up. But my problem is that the $217 million QQQ put trade, whatever institution is behind that, they're still holding their puts, and they're up at least 20 or $30 million right now. And the fact that they're still holding definitely has me worried, because the only reason that they would continue to hold those, assuming that they bought those puts, is if they think the NASDAQ can fall more. So on the daily, the NASDAQ looks great to me, but I'm nervous of, if this large institution who put $217 million into QQQ puts, if they're still holding those, that definitely makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, it would make me really nervous as well. And Man, I mean, we're seeing the Nasdaq kind of double bottom here around 316. There is resistance coming up around like 328. So be very, very careful. I don't know which way this is going to go, but hopefully it keeps going down like their position kind of indicated. But not that I really want the market to fall too much, but it will create some good opportunities. And plus, puts are always fun to play every once and again. So it's not it's not like it's terrible. We can always switch direction here and just switch up to some puts, but I will say though, the QQQ is looking, I'm not going to say pretty bullish today per se. It's up quite a bit, but off of these supports down here around 316, it's not looking terrible. And I will say the double bottom is pretty defined as well. But if we do break 316, then it's going to be really down, I think, for the QQQ. And if we look at that daily, the QQQ is down a little bit over the past few days, going from 343, 342 down to like, 320 at the lows, 316. Not like it really fell that much. I think that it could fall a lot more if we're talking about a serious pullback in the market. But at the same time, you can see how many times it likes to recover up after these like little dips like this. And with the double bottom, it could start to recover. So just be a little bit wary.
Alrighty, and then we have Vicky saying good morning, JMIA please. So Tom, let's check this one out. I think it looks pretty good at these levels. It is a pretty big support at 25 and then again right at 20. I think it's at a pretty good level actually. I'm actually curious to see what type of premiums it has for some cash secured puts, but overall I like the setup.
Yeah, me too. I really like the daily setup the best. Like we keep saying, these daily charts are looking great. Things are hitting off supports and bouncing right back up, actually moving pretty well. And if it can move above like $31, $30, I think it'll be an even better play than it is right now. And JMIA should be a pretty decent stock for the long run. And if you wanted to grab shares or something like that, I think it would be good. But if we go to like a 5-minute chart, it also looks like it kind of has a pretty significant resistance at like 28.80. So just watch out. I would make it break that today before day trading it.
All right, and then we have Click saying, what is the difference between GOOG and GOOGL? So these are Google shares. Basically, GOOGL are the Google Class A shares. This basically allows whoever owns these shares to vote within the company, while GOOG, they are Class C shares and they have no voting rights. So basically, like they're very similar. They move basically the same. It's just GOOGL are just like a better class of shares that actually have voting rights. And great question with that. Then we have Tyler saying, what do you think about Facebook? What are you thinking, Tom?
Yeah, Facebook. I mean, it's kind of similar to Google as in that they're in the tech sector. I will say it looks very nice. It's up a lot today. It's actually like right on the trend line and right around that resistance around 318. So be a little bit careful today. But overall, it looks like it has a lot of momentum moving to the upside. It's up around 1.2%. The daily does not look terrible either. If we can continue to see movement today, I would definitely maybe look at some calls if it can break above like 318. But other than that, I might just be a little scared of it right now because that resistance was pretty defined in the past. And I would make it break that before playing it. But if it does, it's going to be a fantastic opportunity, I think.
All right. And then we have Click saying, just asking about NCLH. So let's check in on cruise lines. I know that they were doing pretty good a couple weeks ago, but let me pull it up real quick. So they really tried to run this morning, but a ton of sellers came in and just denied this movement intraday. Overall, they're down around 1.5% today, but they are making higher lows. So like if we look at like a 5-day chart on a NCLH, Tom, we can see it like had like a low at $25.50, and then again at what is that, 27, and then again at 28, and now it's making a low at like 28.50 right now. So overall, they're making higher lows. I like them for like maybe like a couple week or a couple month swing trade. Intraday, I'm not a huge fan of them though.
Yeah, me either. The intraday is not too bad. The daily looks pretty decent, bouncing off all these supports. Hopefully, it can keep going up. It's pretty much traded between a pretty big range here, like you said, between like 32 and like $25. So just be a little careful. It's like right between there, so it could go up or down. And intraday, it just looks pretty bearish. So just be a little worrisome. But I will say though, the setup is pretty nice, especially on the daily. I've liked a lot of these cruise lines and airlines as like the market starts to open back up. And I just have a feeling like as the economy starts to recover, especially the southern states like Florida and them, or specifically like the cruise lines, like whenever they're finally allowed to depart from Florida, then it's going to be a pretty big deal.
Alrighty, and then Tom, let's check in on Tesla. I was just looking at it. It's really popping up. It's up around 2.5% today, but intraday, it really just started to run. It's actually getting really close to its high a day right now, and it's looking like it has a lot of potential. And then even if we like shift over to ARKK, which is ARK's flagship fund, they're popping a lot intraday right now. They have a huge green candle, and it's definitely a stock to watch out for the next couple months and weeks, for like a potential swing trade, but then also too for a day trade, because when ARK runs intraday, it has a lot of potential just due to the nature of all the high growth stocks that it's holding.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of potential between both Tesla and ARK. I honestly feel like ARK's chart looks very similar to Tesla. I know that they hold like 10% of them. And honestly, Tesla does not look bad. It's bouncing right off support at around 550. Looks honestly like a pretty good buy off support. I wonder if Michael Burry's cutting his position here. I would be very interested to know when he does that, but we'll just have to see whenever the filing comes out. So it's just going to be a pretty interesting thing with Tesla, but the support looks nice at 550. If you do like Tesla for the long run, right now it's honestly at a pretty good level, right at the support. You could even put a pretty quick stop loss down here, like 545 or 540, if you wanted to be safe. Personally, I would just keep holding it myself and average in more. But overall, the risk reward right here is very, very small. Like I said, you could just put a very small stop loss and target somewhere up here like 750 or $800 a share, possibly.
Gotcha. So I'm very curious on what strike he has and, all that stuff, like when he was in, at what price he paid, because, he could have got in months ago, and who knows, he could have like locked in profits this week. No one knows. And, as you suggested, we'll find that out as time goes on, but I'm just curious on like, like the specific option he choose, but, we'll eventually know. But then we have B saying, what could be going on with X? Has been acting very weird and has just been losing momentum since Monday. So yeah, it looks like it's pulling back a lot, and I think it kind of like keeps making the same pattern. You'll see it runs up a ton, and then it just pulls back for a couple weeks, and I think that's what we're seeing now. We can see it had a huge run up on November 24th for like a couple weeks, then pulled back for a couple weeks, and it ran up again on January 5th, then pulled back for a couple weeks, and like it keeps having this pattern where it runs up and then it pulls back for a couple weeks, and we just had a run up, so I'm just seeing a normal pullback. But the good news is that it is making higher lows. It has support right around $24, which is great. So overall, I still think it looks pretty decent.
Yeah, it does. And I think it might still do well. Obviously, if steel does well, X should do well. So just keep that in mind as well. Steel prices are up quite a bit. So if they do start coming down, steel might come down with it. It did hit off $30 resistance. Well, I really like your analysis on like the stair steps up and down. And like you said, it's almost on that stair step down right now. So if it can hold right here, then it might start to pop back up like we see, every other dip over the past few months. But at the same time, if steel does start coming down and we see, for example, that fly down or the market start to come down significantly, then I think it might be time to maybe cut it. But I really like it off this support at like $24. It might be a pretty good time.
Alrighty, and then let's see. We have LC saying slash NQ is holding the 1,300 and 13,182 to 13,360 right below the 51-day EMA on the daily chart. So yeah, the QQQ is popping up. It looks pretty good. We have Hunter saying the 327 area on QQQ could be trouble. I never knew that until I just about Google and GOOGL. Yeah, a lot of people get confused on GOOGL and GOOG, but honestly, like if you're trading them for the short term, it doesn't really matter. And then we have Manny saying thoughts on AMD puts. So Tom, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, AMD has had a pretty volatile morning so far. I could see why he would say that. Right off of open initially, it kind of popped up, and then within just like 2 or 3 minutes, tanked all the way back down. But so every once in a while, we'll see stuff where it opened. These stocks will drop and then start to recover throughout the day. And I have a feeling that AMD might do that here. Not saying it won't ever go down, but kind of in the range right now, heading up towards the high of day. So just kind of, I honestly, I personally wouldn't buy puts here now that it recovered back up. But I see what he was saying. Whenever it had that negative momentum at first, I understand where he was coming from there. But as of right now, as long as it keeps having some good momentum, I think it'll be all right. But we'll have to see if it can start to hold and kind of go back up to that pre-market high or not, or if we're going to start to fall off.
Alrighty, and then let's see what else we have. Let's see. We have Click saying CSIQ. Let's check it out. CSIQ. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, not bad. Canadian Solar should be a pretty good stock. I really honestly like it off support. We're seeing tons of solar stocks like FSLR, that one, tons of other ones just right off support. RUN, I think, is another, and just honestly not bad. Tons of charging station stocks as well. I think that they're awesome off these supports. And if you do like them for the long run, honestly, pick up some shares. Maybe not today because it popped 8%, but over the next couple of weeks, definitely eye it up. It was right on that 35 support. I would have rather viewed, bought at $35, of course, but it's still not terrible at 40 with highs being around 67. And honestly, these solar stocks should do well in the long run. So just keep that in mind also, especially with Biden's infrastructure deal talking about solar and charging station stuff. It should help these companies at least over the next few years, even though they got hurt short term.
All right, and then we have LC saying puts on Tesla. Yeah, I mean Michael Burry's in them. We have JB saying Etsy is rolling. Let's check it out. Etsy is doing pretty well actually. They're up around 4.5% today. Looks like they have a lot of room to fill that gap all the way up to 180.
Wow, they really do actually. And yeah, they're moving really well. I wonder if they can do that today. It's been a crazy day for them, really popping up. If they go to 180 today, I'd be really surprised. But man, honestly, with it breaking the resistance, it would be a pretty cool move to see that happen. And definitely keep your eyes on it. We'll keep our eyes on it during the rest of the stream because it looks like a very interesting stock that's really breaking out.
All righty, let's see. Vicky's saying EXAS. So let's check it out. EXAS. Give me 1 second to pull it up. So it looks pretty good, actually. It's bouncing off that $90 support very well. It looks pretty good, actually. So I like this setup. Let me just look at the max weekly real quick. Yeah, I actually like the setup.
Yeah, I'm just updating my position really quick.
Yep, no problem. So Exis, it is popping. Like one thing I would say though is it is up around 8.5% today, and it seems like this is this stock's best day in like a year. It looks like in terms of like a percent gain perspective. So just keep that in mind. Like for a day trade, it might be up a little bit too much already, but for like a longer term swing, I think it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, it does on EXAS, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, just like everything else, it's like kind of hitting off support. And I hate to say it, but it seems like Mike, I don't know if you're seeing it too, or if it's just me, but I feel like lots of these stocks are like in the same type of setup right now, where
Yeah.
they all just fell down like 30 to 50%. It's just kind of insane, but like we're saying, it's making ton of opportunities here and it's just bouncing off support very nicely. So I would not be surprised if we did see it go up, but over the next couple of days, look for resistance at 110. I think that's going to be a pretty good level.
I mean, Tom, you could even say Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are in the same setup too. Like Bitcoin lost half of its value yesterday. Like it had all-time highs of 64,000 or around 64,000, and then it fell all the way down to 30,000 for a couple minutes there. So just like a lot of things are in a very similar setup. The only things I would say that are a little bit different are like value stocks, like you could say maybe like CAT, but even that was falling off the other day. So either way, I think it's just an opportunity for the longer term, like whether it's with Bitcoin or with some of these stocks that are beaten down, like EXAS or Palantir or DraftKings or Enphase or whatever. Like no one knows the bottom, but I like a lot of these prices on a lot of these different stocks and cryptocurrencies. And if you like them for the long term, it's really just a buying opportunity.
Yeah, it is. It's not terrible. And honestly, like you said, it's not bad. And if we go look at some of them like Bitcoin, it's still at 42,000. The highs are like at 60,000. There's still a lot of percentage there that you can make up. And like with Caterpillar, like you're saying, they're up so much this year that it's almost kind of scary to buy them up here. So I think investors are going to really start to look at, like you said, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, even start to look at the value or the growth stocks like Palantir, charging station stocks, solar stocks. I got a feeling that that's why we're seeing those stocks up while Cat and those other ones are starting to really fall off over the last few days. And let's go check out Home Depot again. That's been a big one. Yeah,
True.
they're actually starting to come up today, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So they're like they actually had a really big fall, which I'm like I like the stock for the long term, but I'm also glad to see that they had this fall just to be just like because it's been going straight up for so long. Like it's just like it's only natural to have a pullback. And at the same time, like, I know it sucks that, to see Palantir and DraftKings and Enphase down so much and all these other growth stocks, but if you're a long-term investor in these companies, you want to see these types of pullbacks because it's just how the market is. It's just like healthy, normal movement. So I'm a fan of a lot of those companies, and it sucks seeing the dips. But if you're a long-term investor, it's necessary, and it's just a part of the process.
Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind, maybe not these dips specifically, more of like overall market dips, is that a lot of times those dips are calculated, like the Fed wants those dips to happen because if stuff just went straight up, we would see huge rises and then huge crashes, kind of like what we see going on like with Bitcoin. We'll see Bitcoin go from 20,000 all the way down to 3,000 and then go from 3,000 all the way up to 60,000 and then 60,000 to 30,000. Like, obviously stocks could do that if they weren't regulated as much, I think. And Bitcoin is really showing like the type of volatility that could be in the market if it was allowed to happen, I should say.
Gotcha. Check out Netflix on a daily chart. They're bouncing off that $480 support, and it looks like their next major resistance level. I mean, I guess it's at 500 right now, but after 500, to me, it looks like they have room all the way up to like 510 and then 520.
It does. Wow, what a good setup actually out of Netflix. Another good one, like that 480 support was awesome. If they could really break above 500 today, I think that would be amazing. They're just about there, 499.26, kind of double topping. Be a little careful of 500, but just straight up this morning, I really like Netflix. I have a good feeling that they might break 500 over the next couple days and start to really move.
All right, and then check out Zoom too. They're popping up. They're up around 3% today. They're running pretty well. Intraday, let me check something real quick. Intraday, they have resistance right around 322, but overall, I really like their movement.
Yeah, they're moving up above the SMAs, really starting to pop. I am liking it, especially if they can break above the high of yesterday. Like you said, that resistance is looking pretty hot up there. So, but I will say I like how it popped above the SMAs, has a lot of momentum. Let's go check out the daily, see how it's doing on there. Also pretty good right on those supports, just like a lot of other things. And honestly, lots of green candles over the past few days. So hopefully we can just keep it going.
What do you think of Baidu? Like, I like their like daily chart right now. They have a really big support at 180. What are your thoughts?
I like Baidu. My only problem is it's a Chinese stock. I don't know. Sometimes we see, or if it's not Chinese, it's foreign. I think it's Chinese though, and a lot of the times we'll see weird catalysts maybe come out of some of those companies. But overall, I like them. I like what they do for the longer run. Anyways, I think that it'll be decent. But in the short term, it's been very bearish. It is kind of on support like a lot of the other stocks are. So I think as long as the other ones can recover up, this one will recover up as well. But just keep in mind that with it being foreign, there's always a chance of being or of having some type of other catalyst with it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good to have those types of stocks in your portfolio because they give you exposure to markets that might be outperforming the U.S. But sometimes it sucks because those markets underperform the U.S. So overall, I think the setup looks pretty decent. It has support at 180. But let us know what stocks you guys are watching today. Tom and I will cover them. Let us know like what stocks you're watching, or you're looking to trade, or you're holding. Whatever you guys want, we'll cover. We have LC saying ETF SOXL is a good long-term hold. It is popping up. So SOXL. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a good long-term hold, but I will say it's a good short-term hold, especially if the overall market goes up. And man, like let's go look at it. We can really see it starting to pop up today, very significantly, up around 4.9%, and that's just due to because it's 3x leverage. Anything 3x leverage is not meant to be held for the long term. It could be held for like maybe a month, maybe a couple weeks. Like you, for example, you could like buy off support, like we could have right here at 28.50 and then held up to $35 and sold really quick. But honestly, for the longer run, these 3x leverage stocks are meant to decay. And we have some videos out on those if you want to look them up on YouTube, but they are meant to decay in the longer run, even though they might go up pretty significantly in the short term. For example, like now, whenever the market starts to pull back, this could go from $33 all the way back down to $9 for all we know.
Yeah, so great comment, LC, and I totally agree with you on the setup. I think it's a great long-term sector, but as you said, in Tom too, it's not really a short-term just because it's leveraged, 3F and 3X, and then these types of ETFs decay over time. But I love the sector overall. And I think this industry has a ton of potential to grow. And I actually really love the daily chart setup too. Looks like we're actually double bottoming right around, you could say like $30 or so, and we're starting to pop back up.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Looks like there's a pretty good resistance at $34 if you wanted to look at that one intraday. And I don't know. Let's go check out like the SPY, see how that looks today. Yeah, still straight up on the SPY. So hopefully that stock can keep going up. It should be a pretty good mover, especially with it being 3x leverage. I would kind of think, it is up quite a bit today, like 4.9%, but sometimes we see some of those 3x leverage stocks really fly like 10%, 15% on days like this.
For sure. And then we have B saying, what do you guys feel on Bank of America to the downside for the short term? So, Tom, I know you've been watching a lot of banks lately. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they've really been going down. Inflation should be like helping the banks very slightly in the short term if it goes up slightly, especially with the interest rates going up too. And that's what I've been looking at, but they are starting to come down. Looks like there's a pretty big double top on Bank of America around $43. Now it's starting to move down. I would not be surprised if it kept going. If it falls below 41.40, I'm going to be pretty bearish on it. And that's also right along the 1,000 SMA. If it breaks that, maybe watch for like, let's see, all the way down here at open yesterday, it hit around $40.80. So you could maybe get a quick point to the downside. And I think I think he's pretty good on his prediction here. I think it's a pretty good setup, especially though, if it could break that low, like I said, of 41.40, I would definitely make it break that because like I said, the banks have not been doing terrible, even though they had a bad past couple days. The SPY and everything was down as well. So don't really take it to heart with banks too much because they could still recover up.
All right. Let's see. With the next question, we have Blackstar saying, what's happening with Tilray? What's going on?
Tilray, let's go check it out. The more of their marijuana stocks, yeah, popping back up. They had resistance at like 1587 the other day. I honestly like the movement today. Hopefully it can go back up towards those highs, but it looks like that we might be slowing down now. Yeah, there is starting to be some chop here. 1555 is posing as a good intraday resistance. Honestly, I'm just more of neutral on this one today. Looks like there's a lot of overhead resistance coming up, and I just don't have a feeling it's going to really like explode or anything like that today. If anything, I would expect it maybe to come up to like 1570, 1580, and then get rejected.
Alrighty, and then we have M saying Tesla is popping up. I was actually just looking at this one, and it looks like NIO is up. It's moving up too, which is great to see. NIO is getting closer to that high of day. We have Tesla running up, breaking their high of day. It looks great, actually. They're up around 3.5%. We have the ARK ETF lingering right towards their high of day. Looks great. I know that ARK is holding some Teladoc too, which is also towards its high of day. We have DraftKings getting close to that high of day. Zoom getting close to that high of day. How about the QQQ? Yeah, they're doing really good too. QQQ is up around 1.5% today. And I'm curious, Tom, like, is this the dead cat bounce or is this like the recovery day up? And I'm neutral because of that smart money still holding their put options, but I don't know. We'll find out soon.
Yeah, personally, I'll say I think it might be a recovery back up, and
Really?
I'm looking at some of these technicals, man, and it looks pretty good. They're moving above some of these SMAs, which isn't necessarily the best. I think if they break above though 328, it'll really show us that it's starting to break back up. Obviously, there's been a pretty good resistance there over the past few days, but with it being above these SMAs and kind of bouncing off of it the way it is, that's just what I like to look at as my indicator. But if it breaks above 328, that'll be the big thing that I'm looking at really. So if it moves above 328, I think it would be awesome. And also, it is kind of double bottoming here on the daily chart around like $317, maybe 316 on the QQQ. And I really like the double bottom and the recovery. So hopefully we can start to come back up. We can see in the past, whenever it double bottoms, sometimes it likes to kind of come back up off of that bottom. And I just have a feeling that this might be it. It doesn't always happen. Obviously, the market could keep going down, but with everything I'm seeing right now today and the market keep going up, I would kind of expect it. And yesterday, I think if we would have seen more downwards movement today, then it would have been a dead cat bounce yesterday. But as of right now, with it being two very solid green days in a row, I just would have to think it's recovering back.
Check out Enphase. This thing is actually going crazy. We've been talking about this one for a couple weeks now, and it is really popping back up. 6% up day today. Went from 120 to basically 140, you can say, in like 2 or 3 days. So that's crazy. It has a ton of potential. I really like it for the long term, and it's great to see this type of bounce back up. I know that a lot of growth stocks have just been getting beaten down over the past couple months, and only God knows if this is the bottom. But with the way everything's moving right now, Tesla, ARK, Zoom, Enphase, Palantir, even, I think they all look really solid.
They do, and that's what's been amazing. And I know you've been talking about Enphase a lot, and some of these stocks are up, but Enphase specifically has had 2 awesome days, 120 to 140. That's a pretty decent move out of that. Let's go look at like PLTR, which is another big one. They're actually starting to go red today, negative like 1%, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, very interesting out of that one, actually. So they're kind of not holding up quite as well. Let's see Peloton today. They're green. So overall, some of them are green, some of them are red, but I really like the recovery out of a lot of them, especially ENPH. Like you said, I mean, you've been talking about this one a lot, and it's had a lot of momentum the past few days, especially today. It has a lot of potential behind it. If it breaks 140, I'll really be bullish on this today. Looking at it very hard, but with how much movement we're seeing over the past few days, looks like there's a good resistance at 140, so it might have some problems there.
All right, so what are your opinions on Beyond Meat? So BYND, I remember this one had so much hype back in like 2019, back in like July. Yeah, July of 2019. This thing went crazy. It like looks like it IPO'd right around like $45, then ran all the way up to like $239. Ever since, it's just been like consolidating, going back and forth, back and forth. But what are your thoughts on this one right now? We are at a very significant support level right at $100, and it looks like we're bouncing back up. And this is one of those stocks where it really, really runs up. The IV is 54% right now, which is really low. And honestly, I'm thinking about getting like some like out of the money call options. I know it would be pretty risky, but like I feel like the risk to reward ratio is really good.
Yeah, it is very, very good. I mean, even if you just get shares, you could get 100, like for example, you could buy them right now for like, let's just say 107 to make it simple, and then put a stop loss at like $98 or $97, and you're risking $10 per share. So just keep that in mind. If you buy 100 shares, $10 per share, then obviously you're looking at like $1,000 loss. But it just depends on how much how much shares you're getting here and all that stuff. But with the risk reward scenario, the low, you could get out at $97 and then target pretty safely up here, $135 to $140. So that's a huge rise there. But honestly, it even has more potential than that. And I honestly like Beyond Meat for the longer run. I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm not a big fan of like the vegetarian meat or the fake meat myself, but I know that a lot of people like it. My dad personally eats a lot of it, and it's a pretty good product, I think. And for the longer run, I know that they're talking about stuff with like cows and stuff like that, like causing emissions or something. So maybe these types of companies will flourish in the longer run. And honestly, with the type of movement that it's had, you can see how volatile it's been since it IPO'd. I just have a feeling it's a pretty good level to buy it at $100. And for the next few years, as people start to, really, let's just say like get back to family gatherings and stuff like that. Maybe it'll help this company as people start to like go to the supermarket more and everything. But I'm sure that those numbers are still looking good right now. But I would think that Beyond Meat would do well, Mike. I mean, I just have a feeling it's a pretty good sector. And like I said, it's not my favorite, but I'm sure a lot of people like it.
Yeah, so I've never tried one of their products. I know like a lot of people who have, and I've just been seeing like that industry grow a lot. Like there's a lot more like plant meat like restaurants you can say. And overall I think their sector is really good. Their industry is really good. I've never tried it, but from a charting standpoint, I might get some call options on them or like call debit spreads. It's more of like a gamble than anything else, to be honest with you. It's not like a super high conviction play, but looking at that risk to reward scenario, I think it looks really solid. So I'll either grab some calls or sell some puts on it. So yeah, like I said, it's riskier, but for the risk to reward setup, I'm probably gonna try it out.
Yeah, and I just think that like over the next few years, especially like I've heard like as a lot of stuff like with the pandemic, like maybe like making people gain weight or something like that. Maybe this will help over the next few years. People like switch over to some of this stuff, or who knows, anything can happen. But anyways, I know that a lot of people are turning to this type of food, and it should be a pretty good sector. And the stock honestly should do pretty good over the next few years. I don't see them, going under like $75 or staying there anyways for like a significant amount of time.
Gotcha. And then we have Corbin saying, my mom is very against Beyond Meat. She says they use a lot of GMOs and are a bad company. So yeah, I mean that could be true. To be honest, I just haven't looked into like the what they do with GMOs. But thanks for pointing that out. And then we have Chris saying calls on gyms. So yeah, calls on gyms. Or I'm curious what's how Peloton will adapt. We have to find some gym stocks, Tom. Let's
Oh,
see.
I thought that was an actual ticker.
No, no. So a lot of people are saying that Peloton is going to adapt, and like I know a lot of people have been using Peloton equipment, and some people are like saying that gyms are going to start buying their equipment from Peloton. This is just a rumor, but either way, yeah, it's a good point. Peloton has been down a good amount lately. It actually pulled back about 50% from its highs. So even if you like Peloton, that might not be a bad buy either.
Yeah, and I found a cool gym stock called Planet Fitness. I'm sure we all know Planet Fitness, and the chart actually looks pretty bearish. Unfortunately, it looks like they had a very good resistance up here at $90. Even had lower highs on the daily chart. It looks like they're actually starting to like tank off now. If they can start breaking this support at like 72, $73, it looks like this gym stock might keep going down. And I'm not sure the catalyst behind this. I would have thought maybe as the economy started to reopen or something that these stocks would start to fly back up, but it looks like that they're seeing a lot of negative momentum actually, which is not very good considering everything going on. And I would think that the Peloton news has nothing to do with Planet Fitness yet. So I don't know what the main catalyst is here, but in the end, maybe it's just people, maybe things like Peloton are making people stay at home and not do subscriptions anymore at these places. That could be a factor.
For sure. All right. Let us know what stocks you're watching. Tom and I will cover them. Yeah, let us know what stocks you guys are watching. Tom, what are you watching intraday? Like, what are some stocks catching your eye? I know that Tesla was moving up a lot earlier in the day.
Yeah, Tesla was a big one earlier, especially with the way it was moving. Yeah, I like how it started to break back above like 582 or where it was consolidating for a long time. Honestly, the SPY has been one of my favorite ones, still recovering up nicely. I was really watching for it to break this resistance this morning at 411. And what do you know? I wake up and we're already above it. So I was just very, it's like the move had already happened at that point, but very good moves out of the SPY overall. And honestly, like the SPY and the QQQ, just tech, it was a big thing to watch from yesterday. Also, AMD, we saw it open, kind of be very volatile. Maybe it's double bottoming here at like 76.27, but very volatile open overall out of a lot of these stocks. Chip makers, I know Ford had some news yesterday about shutting down some production, and it looks like they're popping up off that news. So overall, I mean, it didn't hurt the stock. Let's go check out Ford's daily, and they're starting to really recover up nicely off that support and off that 100 SMA. So hopefully they can keep going. But I thought that with that production, that production stopping, or how they have to slow production because of the semiconductor shortage, I thought that would kind of hurt the stock, but it actually made them gap up, which is interesting.
Indeed. And then we have Hunter saying, look at KSS. They must have been giving out too much Kohl's cash. Yeah, wow. They are down 13% today. This is big. Wow, this is crazy. So down 13% today. Looks like they reported earnings. I didn't look into their earnings too much yet, but this is not good, Tom.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. They're giving out too much Kohl's cash. Man, I've been there a few times. That's hilarious. But I like how they fell through that support. It looks pretty funny. 52.70 right now on the stock, just not looking good at all. Terrible earnings. I'm gonna have to see like go read into what happened because their estimate was negative. It wasn't even like negative a cent, like negative hundredths of a cent. But in the end, they ended up posting a 1.05 actual and destroyed their estimate and then still flew down. So honestly, we've been seeing that a lot lately. I'm sure Kohl's is getting hurt by online retail or online sales, I should say, as well. But they are up a lot this year. But in the same time, they are coming down significantly, and we'll just have to look into what happened with those earnings. And that was just hilarious, man. Too much Kohl's cash. Like my girlfriend used to go to Kohl's whenever we were in high school, or my mom would take me there and stuff. And man, I remember that Kohl's cash stuff. That was so funny.
All right, let's see. We have Chris saying, "What do you think tech can? When do you think tech can rally again?" So I know we were talking about the QQQ a lot, and like Tom and I were just talking about this, but Tom, is this dip the dead cat bounce, or is this the dip where like it's close to the bottom? And personally, I'm neutral because like the chart looks great, and the way these tech stocks are bouncing back up, I think that looks great for like the market to continue up and for this to be the bottom. However, the fact that the institution behind the QQQ puts, they're still holding those puts, and they timed the top of the market basically to perfection, and then they're still holding those puts. And if they are long those puts, if they're still holding them, they would think the market would continue down. So I'm really neutral on this one. Like, where are you leaning towards?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm leaning towards a recovery just because of what we're seeing with the stocks going up today. Now that could always change, you know, if a catalyst comes out like some weird like inflation numbers or some weird catalyst with like the housing market or something like that, or jobs numbers. Who knows? Anything could happen strange, or maybe a Middle East conflict will happen, or there's been a lot of talks of that going on as well. So anything could bring the market down, and that would really change the sentiment. Even though we're seeing a lot of these tech stocks flying back up today, like Tesla and others, just keep in mind that one piece of news or one article could really bring it back down. And it looks like Tesla's actually catching some red right now. Maybe it's going to have a pretty good resistance up here around 584. But I would think personally that it might be recovering just because we're seeing the double bottom and we're holding support. Personally, I would have thought maybe we would have came down today if it was going down, but honestly, there's still a lot of room to move. We're barely up from this double bottom. I mean, if the low was like at 317, now we're at like 326, 327, only 10 points. The highs are at like 342. So there's still a lot of room back up to there. And there's still a lot of room to hit another resistance and come back down is what I'm saying. So honestly, like I would say I'm more of neutral as well. But with a slight bullish sentiment, I would say, but overall neutral. I definitely would not be grabbing calls up here at these intraday highs and hoping that they flew up to 340 or anything like that over the next day.
All right. And then we have A saying, would you revisit the AMD play you mentioned in the video yesterday? The 77 strike options expiring Friday. Absolutely. So let's check it out. AMD. AMD is, what is it, like 15 to 20 cents away from that 77 strike price. Overall, AMD is trending up well. It's not necessarily like great, but it's trending up well. And I would say that they are longing these calls. Let me just go back and check these options real quick. Like the options from yesterday's video, they're up around 10% right now. And to me, it looks like they have more potential to continue up. AMD was bouncing off of that support right around, you can say like $76.25. And it held that. As long as it holds that level, I think it should be fine. And I think AMD would continue up. Yeah, so that's what I think. To me, it looks like they're longing the calls, but really make sure that they hold above that like 76.25 area.
Yeah, I would say make sure that they hold that as well. It looks like a pretty good intraday double bottom there. They did have like lower highs right here where they hit 77.25 and started to come back down earlier. So that does worry me a little bit. My main one thing that worries me about this is like we look at QQQ today and it just went straight up at open. And obviously AMD isn't the main factor in the QQQ here, but AMD had like a lot of chop around open. That does worry me, but I will say as long as they hold the support and they keep going up, it definitely looks like they long those options. And I would think that as the day goes on, maybe like in an hour or two, if we could break like 77.37, it might be another good trade.
Alrighty, and then we have Vicky saying, "How do you guys like TTD?" So I like this one. It's pretty much it's a very similar setup to what we've been seeing a lot in the market right now, with whether it's with growth stocks or with cryptocurrencies. It's down around 50% from its all-time highs. I like it at these levels, and honestly, I might even sell puts on them. Overall, I like the setup though.
Yeah, I like it too. It looks like it's running up today very nicely. The daily chart looks like it's on those supports, like it could fill that gap, maybe back up to like $600. So hopefully it can do that.
All right. One thing I don't like though is the spreads on this options chain are crazy. Like, even yeah, I mean, like these are anywhere from $50 spreads all the way up to like $200 spreads or even $400 spreads. So that's one thing I don't like. If you plan on trading options on this one, you have to be extremely careful because if you submit a market order, you're going to get screwed on that fill price. So overall setup looks good. Just watch out for that options spread. And then we have Dang saying watching BNGO and AMC. So Tom, let's check back in on AMC. I know we were talking about it a lot in the beginning of the week, and they've just been pulling back. On the bright side though, they are holding support right at $12. So hopefully that can maybe be the bottom and then continue up. I'd love to see a short squeeze for everyone who's holding it.
Yeah, me too. I want to see a short squeeze just because it'll bring some fun trading into the market here. I think that'd be an awesome thing to see. And it looks like it's double topping around like 1450, which is unfortunate on the daily anyways. A lot of people were looking for this to finally break this and kind of go to the upside, but like you said, Mike, it's consolidating now. Hopefully over the next few days it can hold $12 and start to move back up. Let's go to the 1 minute and see how close it got today. Yeah, it got really close to 12, so hopefully it can hold that, but man, just not looking good. I don't like the double top there, but in the end, it's one of those plays that it's very volatile and it's going to have a lot of movement before it does break out. So always keep that in mind.
All right, and then we also have to check out BNGO. So,
Oh yeah, I actually like this stock for the longer run. I love these genomic stocks. I think that they might do pretty well as like the medical industry kind of advances. BNGO might not be the best one. Personally, if I was going to get a stock like this, I would go for ARKG, which is just a big genomic ETF. They are genomic, I should say. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is, but it looks like that ARKG is looking pretty nicely off support, like it might start to go back up. And honestly, like I said, this is an ETF with a whole bunch of different stocks. So VNGO is going to be a lot more volatile. I think VNGO would be the way to go if you wanted to do like a quick day trade, if it broke like $5.82 or $5.80. But if I was going to hold for the long run, I'd go for ARKG.
all right, and then we have Click saying, "Thank you. I learned many things from you." So that's awesome to hear. Thanks for joining the stream, everyone, and asking great questions. Tom and I have a great time doing the stream. So thank you guys so much for coming and joining the stream. With the next comment, we have V saying, "Watch ARKK. 106 is a support right now. Weakness in the market will kick it back to $99 to $96 zones. Potential shorts." So this is an interesting take because I know a lot of growth stocks are popping back up, and like a lot of stocks that ARK owns is also popping up. So good comment there. I'm just it's back to the point of whether this bounce back up is the dead cat bounce or if this is the pop back up, and this has kind of been the main conversation of this morning, and I think that there's good points to both sides. Either way, $100 is a huge support for ARKK, and I'll definitely be watching that area, and then I'll also be watching this 107 resistance on ARK too, because it looks like we're getting pretty close to that, and we're either going to break out or break down off of that level.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be an awesome intraday level. And if we do break above that, then watch out. But Like he said, like if it does pose as a pretty good resistance and it starts to come down, it could be a good time to buy some puts if you do see that momentum going to the downside. But as of right now, it's trying to come back up. So if it does break out, just definitely watch out, because if it's breaking out, obviously you won't want to be grabbing puts, of course.
Yep, for sure. And then we have Tyler saying, what do you think about Microsoft to the upside? I love them for the long term. Intraday, let me check them out real quick. So they're up around 1.28%. I like them right now. They're not my favorite setup in the world for an intraday trade. They're not bad. Let me just check a couple other stocks real quick. Yeah, I like them overall. They're just not my favorite setup though.
Yeah, not mine either. I like how it's kind of double bottoming here around like 238. Hard to see because it's kind of like in pre-market a few days ago. Let me go out a little bit on my chart. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we can see the double bottom was pretty defined because it was a pre-market movement that day around 238. So that's good. It was almost an exact double bottom. Maybe this will be the recovery out of Microsoft and some of these stocks. And honestly, like I would not be surprised. We go out here and look at the daily chart. We can see how much support Microsoft is right around here. There was a lot of support right around, let's see, right around like 240, and we bounced like right off of that. So looks pretty decent. I think that if we can continue up tomorrow, it'll be even better to show that this recovery is for real and that the double bottom will hold up. But it will take some confirmation. Don't just be buying calls hoping that we see another green day tomorrow. I think that if you just wait a little bit and wait for that confirmation for one more green day tomorrow, it might be all you need for a safer trade.
Alrighty, and then we have Matt saying, guys, what do you think of VXX put options? I took the $39.50 put for 528. So this definitely is not a bad setup, especially if the market keeps rallying. This should be great for you. One thing I recommend though is I know you like to do a lot with the weekly options, which sometimes can be awesome. But time decay is always your worst enemy while playing with weeklies. One thing I highly recommend is looking into what's called a put debit spread or also a call debit spread. Basically, what this will allow you to do is you can still trade the weekly options, but time decay won't be as bad because essentially you'll be buying a call or buying a put and then also selling a call or selling a put. So it kind of like cancels out some of the time decay, and it'll also save you like a lot of money on your entry prices and stuff like that. But back to the setup, I think it looks really solid, and statistically speaking, VIX likes to fall a lot more than it likes to rise. So I like the direction, I like the setup. Just one thing that worries me a little bit is that time decay because it expires in like a week.
Yeah, and that's very correct. They like to fall a lot more than rise. They just had a reverse split also just a few weeks ago, and now they're starting to like maybe come back down a little bit off of those splits. I wish I could find on my chart exactly where that split happened, but pretty insane whenever you see reverse splits happening out of these crazy stocks like VXX. So just be careful because I would not be surprised, if we kept seeing it go down.
For sure. We have Robin saying, what is your take on SE and NMM? So SE first. Let's check out SE. They're doing really well today, up around 5.5%. They look like a nice, slow and steady stock, but they had some tremendous growth over, what was this, the past year or so? SE. And then if we go to their max weekly, yeah, they've just really been popping. Tom, if you go to like a max weekly or like a daily chart of this one, SE, real quick, you can see that it's been basically going straight up. And one thing that worries me is a lot of these other growth stocks and even Bitcoin and Ethereum and a lot of other cryptos, they've had like a 50% drop from their highs, but we didn't see this with SE. You know what I mean? Like basically every growth stock in the market right now is like has pulled back, but SE has just been like on a tear lately.
Yeah, it has. I mean, man, just going straight up, like you said, pretty insane. It's hard to judge this one, like, is it going to double top? Is it going to bounce off the 200 support? It's up so much that it could keep going down, and it's just pretty scary. But I will say it's holding the support well at 200. So hopefully it can keep going up and just having that good momentum that it's been having. But I will say it's up so much that it is kind of worrying me though.
Gotcha. All right. And then NMM. So
NMN.
NMM.
Gotcha. That's a
Yeah.
tongue twister
Yeah.
there.
So this one's popping up a lot over the past year. Their max weekly chart looks really scary though. They had So I know it looks like they reverse split, but they had all-time highs around 323, and now they're down all the way to $31. So in the past year, they popped a lot, though. I definitely wouldn't hold this one for the long term. For the short term, it looks like it's pretty good for like a short-term trades, though.
Yeah, it does look like it could be good for the short term. I like the recovery ever since the lows that happened with COVID. So that shows that at least that they're recovering and they're doing well since then, at least. So to me, that's a positive. But in the longer run, their chart was going down pretty significantly. So just keep that in mind. But like Mike said, it's good for short term trades.
Alrighty, well, Tom, do you have any last-minute stocks or anything you're watching for today?
Man, I'm still watching these tech stocks. It seems like they're all doing pretty well. QQQ is trying to pop back up. We have NVDA trying to pop back up intraday. Also, let me go to that 5-minute chart. It's starting to really run up. I really like these stocks like QQQ, AMD, NVDA. They all look like they're going to be pretty decent setups. And honestly, I just like the way they're moving. So as we move on today, like if AMD can break 77.37, I think it could be a pretty good level, especially with the double bottom. And then like on the SPY, just looks like pretty good recovery. But be careful, we're seeing resistance come up with 414. So maybe be careful with some of the indices because they are up quite a bit. But I have a feeling some of these tech stocks could keep going.
Check out Pinterest, PINS. Their daily looks pretty solid, and they're popping up pretty well too. But then, Tom, check out AMC. So they're very close to that $12 support. And it might be at a decent level if you're not in it already. AMC, it's one of those super risky stocks. It's basically a gamble. But, there's always that potential for that short squeeze. You know what I mean, Tom, with AMC? So I think like intraday, it looks pretty solid. And at these levels, I think it might be worth the risk, but I can't stress enough that this is extremely, extremely risky.
Yeah, it's going to be very risky. And hopefully, like you said, that momentum can be there. So it could have a pretty good run, but it will always be risky, of course. But I will say there's been a lot of momentum coming into it over the past few days. So if there is, if there does start to be some good movement, obviously a lot of people might pour in and just send the stock up.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We really appreciate all of you who came out to, ask questions and just join the stream. Tom and I had a great time, and we hope you guys